Guys, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down one of my favorite books in the entire world. This is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. This video will probably be a little bit longer than some of my shorter videos, which are normally around 5 to 8 minutes or so. This one, I'm guessing, is going to go closer to 10, 12, 13 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see what happens. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Marlon Johnson, and this is the daily study where I break down books on business, philosophy, psychology, all that fun stuff that helps me to become a better entrepreneur and to grow a seven-figure business. And I want to be able to pass this information on to you because I've discovered that oftentimes people read books and they'll gather information without truly having an understanding. And I like to break things down and really show you how I study and deep dive into a book. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this one because this is a book that I've come to that has helped me really reform my mindset around money. I grew up with a bit of a poverty mindset and believing that money was hard to come by, money didn't grow on trees, money is the root of all evil. I had a lot of negative thoughts in my mind around money, so I had to reprogram my financial thermostat, and I had to do personally a lot of work on myself for this. Other people might not need to do this, but if you've ever struggled with money or you find that you don't earn a lot, I can guarantee it that you're probably sitting on a low temperature on your financial thermostat, and it's not anything that is permanent. It's something that you can shift and adjust if you're intentional about it. Now, let's be intentional about shifting it for you right now. Let's look at this. This is the first principle in The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And keep in mind, this book was written back in the early 1900s. I believe 1913 is when this book was written. And Wallace wrote, by the way, side note, this book, if you've ever read like The Secret or read about the law of attraction, or if you know Bob Proctor, who has taught on the subconscious mind for years and years and years before he passed away, this book right here was actually like the major inspiration for The Secret, for Bob Proctor's teachings, for all that stuff. So when you look at like those people in personal development who've helped millions and millions and millions of people, recognize this is like the source material. And this source material, by the way, if you go back and you look at scripture, it pulls and derives a lot of its information from scripture. So it's just really cool to see how the information keeps plugging forward, but ultimately reaches back to God. And it's this line, and it's just being recommunicated for the modern day. But let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can hopefully see it better on your screen. And it says thought is the only power which can provide tangible riches from the formless substance. The stuff from which all things are made is a substance which thinks, and a thought of form in the substance produces that form. Let's go ahead and just break that down for a second. Thought is the only power which produces from the tangible, formless substance. In other words, when we look at the universe we live in, you got to recognize there's material things. Like my laptop in front of me is material. This microphone is material. The shirt I'm wearing is material. However, where did it come from? We say we live in an infinite universe, and yet we act like everything is so finite. We forget that things have come here from a place that it's almost like, I like to think of it like, I'm a little nerdy. It's like a portal, right? There's like this portal to this infinite universe with unlimited source material. And through thinking, we actually open up a portal like I'm forgetting the guy from the Avengers, Doctor Strange. We open up a portal like Doctor Strange, and we pull from that infinite universe the materials needed. And so Wallace D. Wattles is basically saying that it's through thinking that we have access to that infinite space with unlimited source material to pull into our material world. So original substance moves accordingly to its thoughts. Every form and process you see in nature is the visible expression of thought in original substance. As the formless stuff thinks of a form, it takes that form. As it thinks of motion, it makes that motion. That is the way all things were created. We live in a thought world, which is part of a thought universe. We live in a thought world, which is a part of a thought universe. Let's just go back here and just look at this. This is so cool. As formless stuff thinks of form, it takes the form. So when you think of things, they start to get created. You think about it, like you've never moved your body without first thinking about moving your body. If you want to lift your arm up, a thought. It just happened so fast you don't even realize. You had to think, like lift your arm up. Like when you caught a ball, you had to think, catch the ball. Even things that you think are like reactive, that's just thought happening at a subconscious level, but it's a thought first that moves the body. Remove the thinking, the body loses all of its animation. So everything in the universe has come as a result of a thought. If you've read scripture, there's this thing in the beginning, it's called Genesis, and God says, let there be light, let there be this, let there be that, right? He speaks it into existence. And before you speak, what's interesting about speaking is most people, not everybody, you have to think before you speak. Now, do we know some people who don't think before they speak? I've been guilty of being one of those people. Sometimes I don't think before I speak, I just start talking. But at some level, I did think before I spoke because it involves thought. So let's keep going here. It says the thought of a moving universe extended throughout formless substance, and the thinking stuff moving according to that thought took the form of systems of planets and maintains that form. Thinking substance takes the form of its thoughts and move according to its thoughts, holding the idea of a circling system and suns and worlds. It takes the form of these bodies and moves them as it thinks. Thinking the form of a slow-growing oak tree, it moves accordingly and produces the tree. Through centuries may be required to do the work, in creating the formless seems to move according to the lines of motion in which it has established. The thought of an oak tree does not cause the instant formation of a full-grown tree, but it does start in motion the force which will produce the tree along established lines of growth. Why am I reading that and why am I breaking that down to you? Because it's saying this in a fancy way of saying everything comes as a result of a thought. However, just because you can think it instantly doesn't mean it forms itself physically instantly in this world. The thought of an oak tree created an oak tree. However, it takes time for that oak tree to be planted, for that seed to grow, for it to sprout, and for that tree to eventually become a full-blown oak tree. So it's recognizing that things take time. Just because thoughts create reality doesn't mean it creates reality instantaneously to its final complete form because you want it. This is what Wallace D. Wattles was trying to explain to people, right? Every thought of form held in thinking substance causes the creation of that form, but always, or at least generally, along the lines of growth and action already established. In other words, there are already rules, there are already things that were created beforehand that now things are building upon each other, right? For example, and this is like the law of gestation, which is stating that every thought essentially is like a seed, and seeds take time to fully bloom and fully blossom. If you think about having a child and you go and you impregnate somebody, just because you want the kid to be here tomorrow doesn't mean that happens. It still takes 9 months for that seed to grow. When you have a thought, it's the equivalent of you, when you hold on to a thought, you're impressing that thought into the universal garden. And now that thought, it's in process, it's becoming, it takes time for it to grow. Just like a baby, when a person gets impregnated, it takes time for that baby, that life to grow. Your thoughts, your goals, your dreams, your desires are very much the same. And just like watering an actual garden, you need to water and continuously water the seeds after you plant them. You need to continuously come back to the thoughts that you've had, stay focused on them, stay aligned on them. This is why you'll see people who achieve at a very high level, they have the ability to self-regulate and maintain focus, to consistently come back to the same ideas over and over and over and continuously reinforce them, continuously show up for them. And I want to bring this to your attention because when we're talking about creating wealth, making money, you need to be able to stay focused on a particular task long enough to actually make it happen. So I want you guys to focus on that. We'll come back in for a part 2 on this one, but really take some time to think about this. So if this is valuable for you, leave a comment below and then let me know what your thoughts are.